know. But what I'm feeling now is like a mystery to me. The sky is falling and I'm wondering why. So many days and nights have passed me by without you standing here. There's nothing left for me to see. Forever comes and forever goes, but where it stops I'll never know. Stay a little while, there's nowhere we have to be. 'Cause I don't need to know right now. There's no one left beside me anyhow. Stay a little while, there's no one meant for you but me. Oh yeah. Sometimes I wish that I could fly away when the night is cold and I don't want to stay. I need to understand the mystery is clear. So stay a while and hold out your hand. I do believe, I believe that soon I'll understand the way you're moving me. There's nothing left for me to fear. Forever comes and forever goes, but where it stops I'll never know, never know. But stay a little while, there's nowhere we have to be. 'Cause I don't need to know right now. There's no one left beside me anyhow. Stay a little while, there's no one meant for you but me. There's no one, no one. Oh, 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 yeah. I don't know how you move me so. I don't know why I need to know. But what I'm feeling now is like a mystery to me. Stay a little while, there's no one meant for you but me.
Good morning and welcome to Spirituality Gone Wild. I am Debbie G. That was James Twyman. Stay a little while. Can you guys just imagine that that's just the universe singing to you? There's no one meant for you but me. The universe is calling to you and is calling your name. And I love that. And I love James Twyman. Today, it's time for a Cuppa Grata with a shot of expression and two squirts of reality. And I have an excellent co-squirt. We love her. She was on Women Rising with us last week. She's been on Cuppa Grata before. Her name is Sheri Herndon, who I absolutely love and adore. Let me bring her on up. Welcome, Sheri.
Oh, I love, thank you. I'm so happy to be here. It's really, it's an honor. And I love that we have these, we both have wings.
It's the coolest thing. We both do. And I'm just sitting here going, and it's just it makes sense. It makes sense, especially when everybody listen to this. Sheri's a thought leader. She's a social innovator, a communication expert. Now, Sheri, that I love that you're a communication expert. It's like my favorite thing. And her passion is to awaken, engage, and unite humanity to create a world that reflects our highest destiny. And her life has been an ongoing journey into deeper and more intimate relationships with divine and being of greater service to humanity's awakening. And that's true. And you have just had an extraordinary experience bringing so much light to this world, and I just want to dive right in. Today we're going to be talking a lot about exploring what's a super attractor, and asking for guidance on how that we step deeper into connection with spirit and align with our divine guidance.
Mm.
So I love this, and I want to take a dive right in. And how? All right, how do you become a super attractor?
Right. That's a lifelong journey, right? It's not something that you get a manual or find out about in school. It's almost like it's part of this mystery school of life. It's the deeper codes of like who we are as energetic beings. And that's a very important concept for people to understand, because we've been living in a paradigm that has us kind of fragmented
Hmm.
and and the mechanistic universe, the old scientific paradigm. And when you realize that your energy and your vibration and everything is frequency, then you can discover that what you are sending out, the signals you're sending out from your body, it could be fear or it could be love. It could be abundance or it could be scarcity. It could be disconnection or connection and belonging. And to me, this is just like a simple way of talking about how we get out of our heads and we get into our hearts. And then we actually can feel how we are connected to everything and that the universe has our back. God has our back, source. We are supported. You can put any name you want to that, as long as you realize that it's this greater whole that we're sitting inside of, that is like wanting you to be fully expressed. We didn't come in as original sin. That's just not the story. The story is original blessing. And when you start to feel that you're just a blessing, and when you forget, that's fine. I forget all the time. There's this great little story that I heard, a Zen master who his students were saying to him. They were kind of envious of him, and they said, "Well, how we can't do like you. You never get upset. You're always unconditionally loving and perfect." And he said, "Oh no, I get off all the time, but I get back really fast." So when you think about what does it mean to be a super attractor, what are you attracted to? What feels good? What brings you joy? Where does your body get lit up? It could be being out in nature. It could be having an incredible conversation. It could be like painting. It could be dancing. It could be telling stories. It could be service, helping people, feeding people. Um, you know doing things that feel good in you. I think sometimes we have this old story. It's been kind of in us, this discipline and punishment story, that we are not supposed to feel good. And actually, our true nature is the super attractor. It's like we are this delicious, wonderful being that we forget. And then the more you beam that out, the more it comes back to you. It's like resonance, resonance finds resonance. So that's the beginning of what I would start to share. You're muted.
And That is just beautiful. I love that.
Mm,
So Sandra says, "Good morning, good morning, Sandra, and good morning, Joe." Um, there's something I've noticed, Sherry.
mm,
Some people, when they just don't. What do we say to the person who doesn't know
mm,
how to connect to source? Who says, I don't know. I'm still figuring out what source is, and that's
mm,
okay.
mhm,
But there's
mm.
ways that there's definitely tools here that
Yeah,
that you can give to somebody who's just like struggling right now.
yeah. Absolutely. It's probably different for every person. There's no perfect answer. You're actually, the more, I was just listening to a beautiful um, conversation about a circling and authentic relating and what listening actually means. So when you're listening to someone else say, I don't know how to connect to source, or I feel disconnected, the more you stay present with them, the more they can actually feel a connection that can lead them to that within themselves. Because source is not outside of ourselves, it's really right here. And many traditions talk about that in different ways. The Christian tradition is the Holy Spirit, the Buddhist tradition, and the that the yogic tradition is Satguru, you know, the inner teacher. And it's here. And so in some ways that disconnection from source is really getting connected to yourself in many ways. And when another person, saying I can't get connected to source is a little bit like it's a mental thinking. It's mental. When you feel connection and you feel seen and loved and like honored just for the way you are, there's not going to be like, it's Rumi says, let's meet out in the field beyond right and wrongdoing, and when you actually do that, you can't be in judgment mind. You're like in, you know, loving kindness, kind of like patience. You're seeing someone for their essence. That's one of the greatest gifts we give to each other. And we don't often take the time to just be with someone, not thinking what they should be, what I think I'm supposed to hear, but actually being present with. The moment you're really present with someone, they feel themselves. And that may scare them. Someone who's like very new, we have a whole
Yeah.
spectrum. It may scare them. Um, but, that's part of the learning journey. You're not going to get away at those early stages of being like a little bit confused with like figuring out the mystery of life. This is a cosmos, 14 billion years or longer. It's like, I don't know, eternal, infinite. It's not something our small little minds can grasp. It's like the more connected you are with the whole, and the more you do this healing work. I have to just say something about the healing work. I am grateful. I love that your show is all about gratitude, because I think sometimes people are like grateful for what is good or easy or fun or everything like that, or I have all these things, or my, wonderful partner, or, whatever. But actually, it's grateful for everything that happens.
Yep.
And the more you do that practice, you're like, my brother the other day said to me, Sherry, I'm having a really hard time. I've been feeling, I mean, he's been doing so wonderful. But he's was kind of working through some stuff. And he said, yeah, just don't, I don't know. I don't feel grateful. And I said, Scott, find one thing that you feel grateful for, and then find another thing. And guess what? You'll start to see that you can actually be grateful for everything. And when you feel grateful for everything, your energy gets cleared. And this it's not to be like Pollyannish about the challenges in the world. It's a deeper form of acceptance of what is. Like one of my teachers, Matt Kahn, he has a beautiful book, Whatever Arises. It's his first book. Love that. And you're
Hmm.
like, I am not going to love whatever arises. No, no. But actually, what you learn is it's acceptance. and it's not resisting what is actually the reality in front of you. The more you learn to like, oh, this is, I don't have to say, I hate that or I don't want that. The practice is like, oh, this is happening. And there's always a lesson. Um, I want to just say something about an experience I had.
Well, I
Uh,
want to
yeah,
I want to jump in here just really quickly
please.
before we go into the experience because I want to recognize a couple of things that you said that I think are so vital. We were
Mm,
first talking about the connection of source, and I loved how that you were saying that the other person that they're speaking to, if we can just be present with them,
mhm,
put on our listening cap.
mm,
Because listening and hearing are not the same thing. Hearing is audible. We can hear the truck go by. We can hear the paper
mm,
crumble.
mm,
Listening is an actual intentional act.
mm,
And it is such a,
mm.
I have had to focus, practice, and practice and practice to be able to listen. And when we listen with compassionate ears, what I heard you say is you then connect to the person who's not feeling like they can connect with source because that one-on-one connection between each other is going to help the connection for the whole.
I love that you went right there. That we could spend a whole thing on just that. Listening is not hearing. And that disconnection is I'm source, your source, we're source. Source. It's like when someone actually connects to you essence to essence and sees you, you can't really listen unless you're seeing. And the seeing is a bigger way of seeing. You're touching that deepest part of another person. And you can't not but feel it. It's like I'm being seen, heard, and loved, all in the same gesture.
And the ultimate goal is we are all seeking to be loved, as Marshall Rosenberg so eloquently points out. You know, that's we are all seeking that, and if you can just go behind
Mm,
the ego, go behind
mm.
the stinky thinky, you're gonna see right. You're gonna see that that's
Mm,
just a human that wants love. It's as simple as that. It is not any
mm,
harder than that.
mm,
Then you were talking about gratefulness, which I really love, and then we're going to get into your story because
mm,
great to be in gratitude.
mm.
This is a energy. This is a flow. This people want to. How do you become a master attractor? Gratitude. It. I have in no way, shape, or form. There's been literally that is the thing, the essence of flow. And I love how you were telling your brother, just find one thing. And for anybody watching this right now or watching the replay, this obviously is a message for you. And the message is find something you are grateful for. But there's nothing. Well, there has to be. Because if you go in and you use the restroom and you turn on the water to wash your hands, somebody put that in.
And
Somebody piped that. Somebody had it in their imagination at one point. I mean, that's some gratitude right there because they just made this. I mean, geez, come on.
I love that. Yeah, what we take for granted, right? What we take for granted.
Oh, like if the pandemic did not smack us upside the head and say, yo, is it time to slow down and
Mm,
see what's going on? So
mm,
I love that you did that. And big, huge kudos to your brother for calling you. And this was something that I love. Oh, I have to point this out. I'm being
mm,
told, okay, so your brother called you not to trauma bond and get somebody to go, "Oh, I can't believe you're going through that. Oh my god, you poor baby." Your brother called you because you were the person to call to be straight, to actually show up and say, "That's because you know in your gut, you're like, "That's not good for your soul." You know that. And then you let spirit flow through you
mm.
to give him the words that he needed to hear.
Yeah.
And it's such a simple thing you had him do. And did he do it?
Oh, yeah. I have to just tell a little story about my brother because I think this is really important. My brother is like this artist, ultra sensitive young person who, when he was young, he had a traumatic experience that with uh, someone in, like, he was like, how old was he? God, he could have been like 8 or something. And we
Mhm.
didn't know. And it kind of traumatized him, and he never, like, it never got to come out. So that through his life, he, got into addiction. He was like an alcoholic, and then he was just, it was like he was so beautiful and wonderful and loved the animals and all this stuff, but he was like an addict.
Yeah.
And I basically, and he never could get out of the loop. He'd get out and then he'd go back in, get out and go back in. And when my mom died 10 years ago, she was one of his big champions, me too. And I was always praying for him, and always sending him books, and always being there for him to call. And oh my God. And then I became his biggest champion. And I can tell you, and then he went into jail for like kind of little thing for one time, 10, 12, 14 years ago or whatever it was. No, it was like 11 years ago. And then a couple years ago, like 4 years ago. And then he got clean. And it was like,
Mhm.
Sheri, I don't know why I've been blaming dad all the time. I don't need to blame dad. And I was like, exactly what I've been telling you. And then he started reading the books I had been sending him. And he is now, doesn't smoke, doesn't drink, back with his wife, has a great job. His daughters are like loving him. And literally, I could cry right now, because it's like the answer to decades of prayer. And you can't say, oh, it's going to happen here or there. You just stay in your prayers. You stay in your prayers, however you want to call that, your loving thoughts, your healing energy, your, love. And and I feel like every time I talk to him, I'm talking to a miracle. I'm like having an experience of like my brother is a
Mm.
miracle.
I'm just sitting here in just so much appreciation of you right now for sharing the story. And the reason why is because it's such a big thing. People don't realize the trauma, the PTSD, and it's not actually PTS, it's not really a disorder. It's just simply our we have a trauma, it gets sets in our brain,
Yeah,
and there's shame in that. There's so many feelings. There's rejection, there's all these feelings. And you know, we don't talk about it enough, but you said something really important. He finally started reading the books that you were giving him, and I love this. I was recently having a conversation with somebody who's been sober for a bit, and I said point blank, not for me, but for you, if you have to do your personal work. Conscious recovery is out there with TJ Woodward. There's things out there that really give you give you something to sink your teeth into, whatever it might be. For me, it was like Kyle Cease. I love Kyle Cease, Matt Kahn, JP Sears back when he was just making the funny videos, just because he was funny. Bringing you know, I had different things. I liked NLP, EFT, but I wanted to know different modalities and
mm,
things.
yeah,
Some of them out there, and I see this with men a lot, is they just are in their headspace, and they
yeah,
really you get sober for a while, okay, I can handle this, I'm doing good, yada yada, and then something comes along and rattles their cage and they don't have a foundation set.
yeah.
And it unfortunately, if you don't get new tools in place of the ones that you were using to get you where you were, you're going to unfortunately experience that again. And
Yeah.
I know this firsthand. I've done
Mm,
this. I'm
mm,
not talking about something I witnessed. I'm talking about something I've done.
mhm,
Food was my first big issue.
mm,
And let me
mm,
tell you, Sheri, when I was
mm.
300 pounds, I 20 through 3 years ago now, I I was just
I can't
I
even
was
believe that. I can't. It's like a different reality.
oh, I don't even know what reality that was. It would, but it was all trauma based, Sherry. And
Mm,
after I lost all the weight and everything, and I was healthier and doing all these things, I didn't deal with how I got there. So what wound
mm,
up happening is I started turning to other tools, and I spent like a year and a half abusing alcohol, which I had never abused alcohol before. But I
mm,
replaced the food with another thing.
mm, mhm,
Waking up one day going, "Oh shit, that's not it either. Oh my god." You know, it,
Mhm.
I can't stress this enough. If you're not doing your work,
Yeah.
you're dead. You're going to have to go back and do it again until you figure out there's another way to do this out there, and those tools are so vitally important. So for anybody that's listening right now, in fact, John Fiore just popped on, and he's a master EFT
Mm.
practitioner. Huge help out there. This is a tool that it's called tapping. Root causes. Exactly, John. We get down to the root causes. So I'm going to be quiet now because this show's about you. Let's get back to you. When we start talking about recovery, we're all recovering from something. Let me get this. Let me just
Yeah.
throw that out there.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think it's really perfect that you're speaking about that, because in order to really be able to anchor in who you really are,
Mm.
life is going to give you these kind of tests and challenges and initiations. It's the heroine or hero's journey. And I think we're also in a collective um, hero's journey. And I love the work of Thomas Hubel. He's one of my teachers for a long time, Healing Collective Trauma. And he comes out of Israel and Germany. And he was doing all this beautiful work, and he kept seeing all this stuff would come up. It was like unresolved collective trauma. So we have collective trauma, and we're not trained to how to deal with it. It's just kind of carried on. And then if we're fortunate, we may discover like, oh, I've been on a healing journey for I would say my whole life, but probably started when I was 20, because I realized I could not just live inside my parents' belief system, the born again Christian fundamentalist view, even though I was like a young life girl and I loved Jesus. And I was like, I love Jesus. I like what Jesus says, I felt
Yeah,
tuned
totally.
to Jesus. But the beliefs of heaven and hell, and you're going to hell and you can't, and I just couldn't quite um, get it, and it didn't work inside me. So I started really being in an inquiry and a kind of a seeking. And then at 30, I had an experience of like realizing, shocking, that I didn't have a perfect family. And I really thought I had. And then it was like, oh, I didn't. And I didn't, I had to figure that out. And I did a lot of healing. And there was a lot of healing from emotional kind of stuff and judgment and father figure. And the more you do it, the more free you get. The more you do the work, the more free you are. And the more you can actually be in here and then be out here lovingly connected to others. And it's not an easy path. It's not like, oh, you can just do this. You have to love yourself enough to be able to kind of stand in the fire of alchemy. It's like relational alchemy, social alchemy. We get it when we get in relationships. Why does it always happen? Ram Dass says, oh yeah, the great spiritual path is being married, or it's like
Okay, can you please? I mean, really, it's got to be, right? Just
well,
say it.
and any deep relationship, it's not just in the nuclear family, it's any deep relationship or co-creator. I love the co-creator agreements, because their guidance. They're like saying, I commit to this. I will show up like this. I will be responsible for my own actions. I will not shame or blame you. You can hold me accountable. I will resolve conflict as it comes up. I will be responsible. These kind of
Oh,
there's
no, I don't know these. I want to know. Okay, let's start. Okay, anybody in the chat want to type these with me? Go for it. Okay, what's the first one?
Okay, let me pull them up actually
I'm
then.
all excited. You guys, are you excited right now to hear about this? We have a new creed. I'm like, I just,
Oh
you
yeah,
know,
cream. There's so many of them, but they're at the heart of these. There's like a certain energetic, and you can feel it. It's actually about creating the I thou relationship, not the I it, the object. Oops,
okay.
we went into full screen, and oh, that was kind of interesting. Let's see, where did it go?
Well, I've got her
Okay.
right. I'm going to tell you guys, this is an exciting thing right now. You know why? Because Sheri has, Sheri has had some of the most amazing experience with some of the most well-known people out there ever who you have been walking the path of great teachers.
Uh,
And it's now, what's beautiful is as you're stepping into your now mastery of the great teacher and what all the things that you're bringing forward. I mean, it's quite phenomenal. And I have truth chills as I say that. But yeah, so we
I
have a
do.
collective.
I have them. I found them. So we can feel them and read them. And I just invite you to, and I'm sure Debbie can share them. I can send a document or PDF. There's lots of versions of these, right? It's more like, how are we agreeing? What's the alignment that we can create? What are we saying as, instead of I pledge allegiance to the United States of America, we're actually, I pledge allegiance to your highest good and to the good of the whole. That kind of, it's a very different sort of vow that we're making. And it is a creed. This is a creed. So here's one version. The first, practice mindfulness. My intention is to be my authentic self and be fully present. Second, realize potential. My commitment is to realize my fullest potential and support others doing the same. Access guidance. I agree to attune with spirit and follow the calling of my soul on behalf of the well-being of the whole. Communicate with integrity. I have such a passion around the communication thing. I agree to tell my truth with love and compassion for myself and others. And then there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14.
Okay, well, there's a lot more. I love where you're at. Let's stop and let's go back to the communication, because let's just look. A master attractor is not going to be a master attractor unless they're mastering communication. Communication first with self and then communication with others. This is what I study. I'm in school right now. I have my I am in a couple of incredible communication classes, and I have been for a while, but my favorite is, of course, Marshall Rosenberg and all that he brought forward with nonviolent communication.
Mhm.
You know, it's been my experience. There's not a single relationship I've got that I'm not the common denominator, number one. But it's also been my experience that in communication, curiosity is our absolute number one best friend.
Mhm.
And taking a deep dive into the curiosity. Tell me why communicate. I want to know from you though. Why is communication so vital? What's happening? Why should we worry about it? I mean, can't we just talk and just
Yeah, exactly. I love Marshall. I trained with him actually personally in the 90s.
you did
Um,
not. Did
I
you
did.
really?
I
Oh my
did.
God.
I did. I did. He had his little puppets. He was right there having with his
How
little puppets.
his little
the,
giraffes.
the giraffe and the what's the other not donkey the kite no jackal.
Yep, jackal.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Um so the giraffe is the one that has from the heart, because it's the mammal that has the largest heart on the planet. That's why giraffe. And so communication. So when I was 20, I was reading Martin Buber. He's a theologian, philosopher, uh, mystic from Germany, and longer ago. And he wrote this book, I and Thou. And it was that when we are in an intimate relationship with another, we don't objectify them. We can be in communion. And so there was a group of us reading that book in a philosophy class, and we were noticing when we would be in communion and when we would just be communicating. And the communion was a felt sense of, oh, it's no longer two, it's actually a we space that we share. And so it's like, I love that you said curiosity, because with curiosity, we get to stay open outside of what we think we know. So that's such a gift, because you have to be humble. You have to let go of what you think you know, like I'm right. You have to be curious about the other. You have to be curious about what's emerging. So you ask, like, why communication? Well, I believe that everything is created out of dialogue. And dialogue, dialogos, it is what is happening between us. And while we're the two here who are talking, everyone listening is like also participating. Your thoughts are kind of going. You have, if we could make visible what you're thinking, not just in the chat and whatever, you're here. We're in a field. And so the fact that we're creating life through the quality of conversations, communication that we're having with each other. So we don't communicate the way we were raised. My dad was very much like, he's always right. I love him, by the way, but he's always right. He was the patriarch. He was very controlling, very kind of domineering, judgmental. Those don't facilitate you flourishing, right? So when we pay attention to communication, it's like everything in life is interdependent. We live in a living system. We are nature. And when you realize that everything is communicating with everything. So I communicate with the trees. I'm always communicating. I live in a forest surrounded by these beautiful trees, and I go out and breathe with them. And it's like, they're like, hello, Sheri. And I'm like, hello. And I'm just like, and this isn't fantasy. If we could make visible what's happening between my breath and their exhale and my inhale and exhale, you would see flows. You would see the currency and the currents of life in flow. It's incredible. So everything is communicating. What's the quality of your communication? Are you connected to your heart? Are you in resonance? When you're in fear, so here's something really important. It's like when you're communicating with inner coherence. This is a concept from Thomas Hubel, inner coherence. It's a very important one. Others talk about it in other ways. It's the alignment from within. So what you believe is what you say. What is true is what comes through you. A lot of times people will just talk about something, but it's not embodied. It's not coming through them as a clear channel. It's a muddy channel. That's why you have to do the work to my prayer for so many years has been, may I be a clear channel. May I be a clear channel for spirit to come through. And sometimes that means some stuff is going to come up. Oh, great. You want to be a clear channel? We're going to clear out some of that some of that hidden drama. And I'm like, okay.
That's what happens.
So this is one aspect.
Well, I love, oh my gosh, being in communion versus simply communicating. And I think that was potent. And also where you're connecting from, the heart space. Why is it so important that we connect from our heart?
Well, interesting. It's a lifelong question. Some people say the journey of life is to go from the head to the heart, right? And heart coherence. So this is a simple practice you can do. If you're feeling stressed or whatever, your heart is a field. We're all electrical, the electric body, we've heard about all this forever. We're electrical beings. And the heart has an electromagnetic field that is 5,000 times stronger than our brain. So you're like, brain is so smart. No, heart intelligence is the intelligence of the body. Same with the gut, but that's a whole other conversation. And the enteric nervous system. So the heart is like it's a resonance. It's like beaming out an energy field. It's coherence or incoherent. And when you are speaking and communicating and you're not in coherence, which is connected to your heart, compassion, love, and you've got an agenda, you're judging, whatever those energies are that are not a higher frequency, your words aren't going to be received. It'll be like, here's someone's beaming their love at you and you're going, whatever. They'll be like bump like this, but you're not going to crash into each other if you allow yourself and go, oh, just let go. You'll be able to receive. That's when someone doesn't feel source and someone comes and says, I'm right here with you. I'm with I am with you. Even if they don't have the capacity, where two or more are gathered, something else can come through. We have so much, we have so many more powers, we have more superpowers, sacred technologies than we even know. And as we begin to tap into those technologies and understand how life is, you know, life is communicating with us always. Like, this is really important, and sometimes we have to ask for guidance. So that was something I wanted to share with everybody, is how we do that. But I want to let you reflect on the heart piece.
I really do love this. First, I want to say to John, thank you. First he said he loves it, and thank you, John.
We
And
love how
anybody,
enthusiastic you are. You're beautiful.
oh, John is just like John is one of my favorite people in this world. Been on with some amazing shows with me where he's been teaching EFT, and it's awesome.
Mm,
Okay,
mm.
so what I'm hearing you say is that the heart is 5,000 times more powerful than our brain.
Yeah.
I want everybody to. I mean, that was like,
So when you
and
say
how.
more powerful, clarifying that it has an electromagnetic field that can move out from this heart. You have a field that moves out. The more coherent you have. So when you want to get coherent, you can, if you're feeling stressed, you can just like take 2 minutes, start to slow your breath down, go into your heart, move your energy attention into your heart field, and then bring up an experience of compassion or love, and let that expand in your heart, because that's that gratitude. And you can feel how your system will shift. That's why when they're in crisis or we're stressed and you just slow the breath down, inhale and exhale, you're actually upregulating. It's emotional intelligence. It's like how we tune our bodies. We are tuning forks. So we're tuning to the highest frequency. My God. And guess what? It just always feels good. It's just the cleansing process is like, just a little, it's the lotus has to come up from the mud, and then it comes through the water, and then there's this purification process. And then, and the more you taste it, the more you want it. And oh, it's just who I am. It's not something I have to get. It is you. And then you attract it to you. So the heart, that power there is really, I mean, I forget. We all forget. And here's something that's really important to remember, because I have to remember it myself. When I get off track and I get irritated or scared, or I go into like scarcity thinking, or, I'm triggered by something, do not, if that happens, that's just like part of the transmutation healing process. And then you become aware of it and you're like, okay, and don't stop loving yourself. Love yourself, forgive yourself. You've done nothing wrong. Love yourself, forgive yourself. You've done nothing wrong. You just bask in that and then go, oh yeah, I'm learning. And then watch the gap between the stimulus and the response shrink. So you can get back to center. And then you spend less time in the angst space.
Oh, that was so good. So, to clarify, your electromagnetic field when you are in your heart expands out, so that that's what you're sharing, and that's huge. That's huge. And you know that there are, of course you do. There's studies. I've seen them, and it's like remarkable. Lots of fantastic stuff. What you're really describing is what I call gratitude intelligence. It's emotional intelligence on steroids. Because when you're in your heart and you're in your grateful beingness, that feeling, it just is. And you are right. That is what it feels like. You're just you. It's not out there. It's not something I'm seeking. It just is. You realize, oh, here. But I loved how you brought in the perfectly human aspect of it when you get upset, when you're not having a good day, when things aren't rocking and rolling, and you're like, oh my God. And I do this to remember how to breathe and get back to center. And to use that tool is so vitally important. So that's just huge. So another thing I wanted to say is that what you're also describing is how that we communicate with ourselves. Because what I found, Sheri, is if I can't communicate with myself, I certainly can't. I have a really hard time connecting and communicating with another.
That's it. That's really where it starts. It starts right here. It starts with the I. It starts with your sovereign, your most intimate relationship is right here, and that's also with you and the divine, you and your higher self. And we have, the more clarity of intention we have, the more we can like attune ourselves to that right relationship that we have. And then also something I did want to say was about, you can be in tuned to this, but realize there's like, you have all this spiritual support. You can ask for guidance. I heard something many years ago, 1997, from Carolyn Casey. She's like this wild astrologer woman. She was one of the closing keynotes or something. And she said, spiritual etiquette requires that you ask. So it isn't just like, whoa, help me. I mean, why aren't they helping? Why isn't, help coming? And it's kind of like, ask. And I could tell you so many stories of when I think sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm so independent, because we're taught individualism, rugged individualism is kind of in this culture. And yet actually asking for guidance. We have so many allies, so many angels, so many are like ancestors, like beloveds, the master teachers, great beings that you don't even quite understand. And the support is there. The support is there, but you have to ask. I loved when she said that. I was like, bing. Oh, spiritual etiquette. There's like a spiritual etiquette, not just an etiquette for how you do tables and introduce the queen.
Actually, I love that, because in order for there to be a spiritual etiquette, that means you have to practice that. There's a value system in here. Now, I also heard you talk about integrity
Yeah.
and communicating with integrity. And when you talk about etiquette and holding to a standard and a value, integrity comes into play.
Yeah. Yeah. Integrity is probably one of my core values. It's just very, very central for me. And so I always feel, I know when I've done something that isn't quite right. I know when I think something, I'm like always inquiring into myself. And integrity is like you're in right relationship with what you know is right. And I think a lot of people, our culture has gotten very sloppy with just getting away with stuff. We have so much corruption in our government, and the media is just like kind of ridiculous, and the presidential conversation is a joke. And I'm sorry, but that's how I feel. And I'm looking at like, who can we actually fully really be? Who can we really be? What is our greatest vision for ourselves and for this country and for the world? That's my aspiration. And to me, that's like, if you can vision a more beautiful world and you can feel it, that is then what we are in integrity to that vision. So I feel like we need big visions right now in the world. We need to like really do visioning and do visioning together. I think this is so important. I know I switched topics, but I realized Spirit's saying you got to say this because, there's a lot of crises happening on our planet, and there's a lot of things that are challenging, and we are going to have to go through this together. And the more we can be in our center, and the more we can be loving with each other, and the more we can be holding a vision for what we see as the highest possibility and that will serve all life, the faster we'll be able to navigate through the difficulties.
I love this visioning as a collective.
Yes,
This is
collective
this is
vision.
Oh yeah, collective visioning is just, I mean, this is huge. How do you know what I was thinking about this morning, Sheri? I was thinking about Disneyland. And I was thinking about the fact that at one time this was in his mind.
Yeah.
and he shared it with others, and it became this collective vision. But for any, I mean, collective visioning, that's how our imaginations coming together create magic.
That's it. Disney talked about, they still have it in their process. I've done a lot of research into the documentaries for Pixar and Disney, and they have, it's called Imagineering. And as a futurist, I do I'm always feeling the biggest vision. It's just kind of
Mm.
my nature. I can't not do it. And I've done collective visioning. And if you understand the role of collective visioning in making things happen, it's not just like, oh, fun to do. It actually is what initiates the thing that is like an image of the future, a positive image of the future. And we can't just do it alone. We don't have enough collective spaces where we can do collective visioning. So I'm planting that out there.
Can we just please let's do that? I'm going to plant that with you
Yay.
completely. Inventive. You know what? There's not very there inventive visionaries and futurists. We're calling you in. We're right here. You got that's right. Holding that space.
Beam that out. Yeah, the power. We could do a
Mm.
whole show on it's different than manifesting, but it is how we actually hold visions so strongly as like we see it together in a field of coherence. This is Lynn McTaggart's work. This is her work with Power of Eight and the field. She's a scientist. She was an investigative journalist, and she wasn't a spiritual woo-woo person. And it showed itself to her. She was like, "Oh my God." So I have followed her since the beginning. And, those are the collective intention experiments. It's just like the heart math people, 350,000 people all together in coherence can shift the world. And so we have these fulcrum points, we have these trim tabs for cultural transformation, which starts right here with gratitude, with love, with listening, with integrity, with communication, all these like building blocks and grammar of a new civilization.
Oh, that was like drop the mic good. That was so good. Oh my word. I mean, that was just wrapped up in a nutshell. Absolutely wonderful. I can't even believe we're already at the top of the hour. This is crazy. Ah, John, I love you. He's
Mm.
just in here agreeing.
Yes, beautiful. I love it.
Walk-in emotional clinics. Ser
Mm.
honestly,
Mm.
really, I think
Mm.
that's for us all to just create
Right.
safe space, safe
That's
space.
that's a yes. It's a beautiful image, John, of like people could go in and just have like spaces in their community, like kind of the town hall on the round, the place that this the hub for emotional support and nurturing, and you would feel it immediately. You would walk in and you'd be like, oh, I'm welcomed. Someone would greet you at the door and say, oh, we're so glad you're here. What do you need? And
Mm.
you would, the minute you start having some of those experiences, you're going to dissipate traumas. You're going to feel how there's more hope, there's more potential for yourself. People care about you. We live in a culture that the system looks like it doesn't care. So we're always in a little bit of a low grade trauma, of fear, and there's not enough, and the healthcare and the insurance system and the money economic system is like debt based, and these are not what a more enlightened being would be designing. These were poorly designed, and many people are designing new systems, and that is feels really awesome.
We have new systems coming. Sherry, I'm gonna have, of course, she's gonna be back. She's gonna be back, and we're gonna talk about some of these new systems that are coming out. We're gonna also take deeper dives into communication again and all types of other subjects. However, the fact of the matter is, Sherry does work with others, and there's ways for you to reach her, and we're going to talk about that right now. And I'm going to put in the chat a really beautiful meditation that you have available for everybody, and it's called Awakening Together. Awakening Together.
Yeah, it's
One.
well, the meditation is deepening into essence, and it's on the Awakening Together Bandcamp. So that's that one link. And then I have a weekly show called Awakening Together, and you can sign up at awakeningtogether.one. That's the link there. And
Okay.
that's not the deepening into essence, it's the Bandcamp that's deepening into
Okay.
essence.
Well, okay. So there's one link, and I'm gonna put another link in here. We're gonna get it all straight. But go ahead and just keep letting him know. And John, thank you. He says it's a pleasure to meet you.
Yeah, pleasure to meet you, John. Yeah, wonderful. Yeah, just I'll actually that's a good idea for me to put the link to that meditation on my website, but it's you can Google Deepening into Essence, Awakening Together, Sheri Herndon on Bandcamp and you'll find it. But it's the my radio show is weekly. I do interviews with amazing humans, and I've been doing that since 1992 in different contexts. So I love talking to amazing humans, and I love being on your show, Debbie. It's just really a gift.
You're a gift. I love you. You are just spectacular. John says I dig up the diamonds. You know, John, I got to tell you, they just come like amazingly. I want to thank Miranda Clendingling for this beautiful divine connection. And if you guys missed Sheri on Women Rising, please go and watch the replays of Women Rising because it was a really extraordinary experience. Please.
It
And
was.
if you want to work with Sheri, I've put her Facebook link here into the chat so you can click on that. You can message her directly. You can message me. Uh, you can find me. You guys know where to find me. Spirituality Gone Wild. Spiritualitygonewild.com. You can find us there. And this Saturday morning at uh, 9 a.m. is Women Rising again, and we're all about Earth Day. All
Mm.
about Earth Day. And this is going to be really cool. We have Dr. Anita coming on. Oh, I just her last name just went out of my head. I feel terrible right now. I
Is it
wanted to.
Sanchez? Anita
It is
Sanchez?
Dr. Anita Sanchez. Thank you. Thank you, Sheri. I love that. Thank you. She did that. You say she came in as saved. Pow, done. Um, but yeah, she's going to be on. And tomorrow morning, right here on Cuppa Grata, I have Jana Danielson, who's going to be talking all about the cooch ball and the gooch ball. Same thing, but really it's all about taking care of your body. There's a very serious conversation, okay? But one that's necessary. And we had her on Women Rising, and when you see her tomorrow, you'll get it. I promise. So thank you, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow morning, and have a blessed day. Remember, who are you?